The desert stretched endlessly under the pale light of the twin suns. The winds blew hot and dry, carrying dust and tiny stones that scraped against the surface of the planet. Far away, mountains rose like jagged teeth against the horizon. This planet, dry and lonely, seemed empty at first, but it held secrets older than most stars in the sky. One of those secrets was a creature whose life had lasted for centuries, a creature known as Valor. Valor moved slowly over the cracked ground, his massive wings folded tightly against his back. His scales shimmered in colors that shifted from deep blue to dark green, reflecting the harsh sunlight. Every step he took left deep marks in the sand. His long tail dragged behind him, leaving a trail like a painted line on the desert floor. He was enormous, taller than any human could imagine, with eyes that glowed faintly like burning embers. But today, there was weakness in his movements. Centuries of thirst had made him slow, and the minerals he needed to survive were nowhere to be found. He stopped and lowered his head to sniff the air. He could smell distant water, but not the kind he needed. The minerals that ran through certain living creatures' veins were what his body craved. He had searched entire galaxies for centuries, following the faint trails left by these rare elements. But every planet he visited seemed empty or already picked clean. Some species had adapted to protect themselves, their bodies hiding the minerals deep beneath layers of stone or flesh. Valor's hunger had become a constant ache, gnawing at him, leaving him restless and desperate. In the distance, a small group of humans arrived in a hovering vehicle. The engines hummed quietly as the craft touched down on the rough ground. Valor stayed hidden behind a ridge, observing them with careful eyes. Humans were different from the other creatures he had seen in his long life. They were small, fragile, and full of strange energy, but something about them was intriguing. One of the humans stepped out of the vehicle, a young woman with bright eyes and a calm presence. Her name was Lily Carter. She wore a simple suit designed for desert exploration, and her backpack was filled with scientific tools and equipment. She looked around the dry landscape with a sense of wonder, her gaze scanning the mountains and the cracked soil beneath her boots. "Stay close," a male voice said behind her. It belonged to Jake Miller, the team's geologist. He adjusted the straps of his backpack and squinted against the sun. "There's nothing here but rocks and sand. I don't see why we're wasting time." Lily smiled, though she didn't say anything. She had always loved deserts, even though they were harsh. There was something alive about them, a hidden world beneath the surface that most people didn't notice. She knelt and touched the sand with her gloved hands, feeling the heat through the thin material. Even in this dry, empty place, there was life. She could feel it. The rest of the team began unloading equipment. Ben Taylor, the youngest of the group, was setting up sensors to measure mineral traces in the soil. Sarah Lee, the communications expert, checked the satellite link to make sure they could contact their ship if needed. Valor watched them quietly, his head barely rising above the ridge. The humans did not notice him. Hours passed. The suns moved across the sky, casting long shadows over the desert. Valor grew weaker. He needed to drink, to feed, or he would not survive another day. His hunger was not for water like a human might need. It was something deeper, something tied to his very essence. Without it, his body would fail, his wings would weaken, and eventually, he would collapse entirely. As the humans continued their work, Lily wandered away from the group. She was curious and brave, often the first to explore areas the others avoided. Today, she found herself drawn to a small canyon nearby. The walls of the canyon were carved by wind and time, and at the bottom she noticed a small pool of water reflecting the sunlight. It was unusual for this planet to have water that stayed liquid for more than a few hours. Lily carefully stepped down into the canyon. She held her hand above the pool, noticing the slight shimmer on the surface. Interesting, she whispered to herself. She had brought equipment to analyze minerals and water samples. Kneeling, she took a small device and tested the water. It was not just water. It contained traces of rare minerals that her sensors immediately picked up. Her eyes widened. "This could be a discovery," she murmured. Unbeknownst to her, Valor had followed her quietly. He stayed just beyond the edge of the canyon, hidden by shadows. He could sense her presence and the faint mineral signature of her blood. His body trembled with a mixture of hunger and caution. He had not eaten properly in centuries, and the minerals in this human were enough to sustain him for a long time. But he hesitated. Humans were fragile, and approaching one was dangerous. One wrong move could destroy both him and the girl. Lily stayed near the pool, studying the readings on her device. She did not see the shadow above her, nor the flicker of movement on the canyon wall. She was lost in her work, completely absorbed by the possibilities. Valor watched her, noticing her calmness, her intelligence, and the kindness in the way she studied the world. It was unusual. Most beings he had encountered in his life reacted with fear or hostility. This human did not. Night fell quickly on the desert planet. The twin suns disappeared below the horizon, leaving the sky a deep shade of purple. Stars appeared, shining brightly in the clear air. Valor moved closer to the canyon, his wings stretched slightly as he crouched. He was careful not to make a sound. His instincts told him to strike, to feed, but another part of him hesitated. The human before him seemed different, almost safe. Lily sat near the pool, watching the stars. She was tired, but happy. She had collected several samples and recorded data for hours. Her thoughts wandered to the vastness of space, to the other worlds humans had explored, and to the possibility of life beyond their own planet. She had always dreamed of finding something extraordinary. Tonight, she felt that dream was closer than ever. A sudden gust of wind stirred the canyon, and Lily froze. She sensed something watching her. Slowly, she turned her head, scanning the dark shapes of the canyon walls. At first, she saw nothing. Then, a glimmer of light reflected in the shadow, like a pair of burning eyes. Her heart beat faster. "Hello?" she called softly, unsure if she was speaking to an animal or something else. Valor stepped forward cautiously, his massive form still partly hidden by shadows. The ground trembled slightly under his weight, but he moved with care. His eyes remained locked on her, studying her reactions. He could smell her curiosity, her fear, and something he could not name. It was unfamiliar, yet strangely comforting. Lily's fear slowly gave way to curiosity. The creature before her was enormous, but it did not attack. Its scales shimmered in the moonlight, its long tail coiled behind it. The wings, though folded, hinted at immense power. Lily realized she was looking at something ancient, something that had lived for centuries. Valor lowered his head slightly, a silent gesture. He did not speak, could not speak in a language she knew. But in that moment, a connection formed. Lily felt it in her chest, a strange empathy for the creature before her. She did not know why, but she did not feel fear. Slowly, she held out her hand. "I don't know what you are," she said softly, "but I won't hurt you." Valor tilted his massive head, considering her words. He had never experienced this before. Most creatures reacted with attack or flight. This human, small and fragile as she was, offered trust. It was something he could not ignore. His hunger pressed at him, but so did something else, something that made him hesitate. For the first time in centuries, Valor did not act on instinct alone. He waited, studying the human, understanding her in ways he could not explain. And Lily, sensing the tension, remained still, offering calm and patience instead of fear. The night deepened. Stars filled the sky, and the desert grew colder. Valor stayed near Lily, the two of them silent companions under the vast expanse of space. For centuries, he had wandered alone, desperate and thirsty. Tonight something had changed. The presence of this human, her courage and curiosity, sparked a strange hope within him. By morning, the desert would reveal more challenges. But in this quiet moment, two beings, one human, one alien, shared an understanding beyond words. The dragon, weakened but alive, and the girl, fearless and kind, were about to begin a journey that neither could have imagined. The desert seemed less empty now. It held life, mystery, and possibility. And somewhere in the endless sands, a bond was forming that would change the course of both their lives forever. The first light of dawn painted the desert in soft shades of orange and gold. Lily Carter woke to the quiet hum of the wind through the canyon. She rubbed her eyes and looked around, expecting to see her team. But the canyon was empty, except for the small pool and the faint marks in the sand that told her something large had been there during the night. Valor watched her from a distance, crouched low behind a rock formation. His eyes, glowing faintly in the early light, followed her every movement. He was still weak, his body not yet fully recovered from centuries of thirst. The night had given him energy, but the minerals in the air and ground were not enough. He needed more, and he knew it. Lily knelt by the pool again, checking the samples she had collected. She noticed the strange marks in the sand, long and wide, almost like someone had dragged a huge tail. She frowned and looked around. "That's odd," she murmured. She scanned the canyon walls, seeing nothing. Her heart beat faster, a mixture of excitement and worry. From his hiding place, Valor moved a little closer. He wanted to study her without scaring her. He was careful, each movement slow and deliberate. The humans were fragile, and his instincts told him to strike. But another voice in his mind, one he did not fully understand, told him to wait. Lily stood and brushed off her hands, deciding to return to the main camp. As she walked, she kept glancing over her shoulder. The desert felt alive, though she could not see why. Something was watching her, and it made her skin tingle with awareness. Valor followed her quietly, staying just out of sight. The canyon ended, and the flat desert stretched before her. Her small vehicle waited nearby, engines quiet. Lily climbed inside and started to signal her team. "All good here," she said. "Nothing unusual so far." Jake Miller frowned from the other side of the canyon. "You're sure?" he asked. "Those tracks." He pointed to the marks in the sand behind the canyon. "They're huge. I've never seen anything like this." Lily looked at the tracks and shrugged. "Maybe it's just a large animal native to the planet," she said. Her voice was calm, but inside, a small thrill ran through her. She had a feeling this was more than just an ordinary animal. Valor watched the humans interact. He studied their movements, their words, and their expressions. He had seen many beings in his long life, but humans were different. They were clever, resourceful, and fearless in ways other creatures were not. They were fragile, yes, but their minds made up for what their bodies lacked. The team spent the morning taking samples from the desert floor and the surrounding rocks. Lily noticed a small greenish mineral embedded in some stones. Her scanner picked up a faint energy signature she did not recognize. She crouched and tapped the rock gently. "This is unusual," she whispered. "It might explain why the readings at the canyon were so strong." Valor stepped closer, curious about the small device she held. He had never seen technology like this before. It was strange to see a human study the minerals with such care and precision. Most creatures would simply eat or destroy, but humans observed. They learned. Valor's long life had taught him to respect intelligence, even if it came in small, fragile forms. By noon, the heat became intense. The team retreated to the shade of their vehicle. Lily took a moment to rest, sipping water and looking at the desert horizon. She felt the strange presence again, the sense that something large was near. This time, she did not feel afraid. Curiosity had replaced fear. Valor observed from a distance, his wings half extended to balance himself on the hot sand. Hunger pressed at him, stronger than ever, but he resisted. The human girl was close, and he needed to understand her before he acted. He had been alive for centuries, and his instincts told him one thing: survival. But something new was stirring inside him, something that made him pause and consider another path. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the quiet. A rock slide from a nearby cliff sent stones tumbling down. The team screamed and ran. Lily froze for a moment, and Valor's body reacted instantly. With a rush of speed and strength, he leaped from the shadows, his wings unfurling. He caught a boulder with one claw and held it in place, preventing it from hitting Lily. Her eyes widened in shock. She had seen animals and even dangerous predators before, but nothing like this. The dragon was massive, terrifying, yet somehow graceful. His scales shimmered in the sunlight, and his eyes looked directly at her. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. "Thank you," Lily said, her voice trembling slightly. She did not know if the dragon understood her, but she spoke anyway. Valor lowered his head slightly, acknowledging her words. His massive body trembled as he adjusted his stance. The boulder slid safely to the side, and Lily's team rushed forward, shouting in confusion and fear. Jake Miller stared at the dragon wide-eyed. "What is that thing?" he asked, unable to comprehend the size and power of the creature before them. Lily stepped forward, putting herself slightly between her team and Valor. "It's alive," she said simply. "It's not attacking. I think it's protecting us." Valor studied the humans carefully. He sensed their fear, their confusion, but also the small girl's calmness. Her presence was strange, but not threatening. He felt an unfamiliar pull in his chest, a mixture of hunger and curiosity. For centuries he had been alone, driven by survival and thirst. But this human girl, her courage, her calm, her curiosity, made him hesitate. The rest of the day passed slowly. The team set up camp, and Lily continued her study of the minerals in the area. She noticed that the readings were stronger near the canyon, where the dragon had been the night before. She did not yet understand why, but she made careful notes, her mind racing with possibilities. Valor did not leave. He stayed nearby, hidden from the other humans' view, but always watching. He moved carefully, testing his strength as he recovered from centuries of weakness. His body still ached, but the pull of the minerals in the girl's veins and the canyon water kept him grounded. Hunger and restraint battled inside him. He wanted to feed, but he did not want to harm her. As the sun began to set, the desert cooled slightly. Lily wandered near the canyon again, drawn to the strange energy she had sensed earlier. She knelt by the pool, scanning the water and the surrounding sand. Her fingers traced the edges of the stones, and her mind raced with questions about the planet, the minerals, and the mysterious creature she had glimpsed. Valor approached slowly, remaining partly hidden in the shadows. He watched her work with fascination. She moved carefully, respectfully, without fear. Most creatures he had encountered in his life would have panicked or fled. This human was different. She was fearless, curious, and strangely kind. "Hello?" Lily whispered softly, not knowing why she spoke aloud. The desert was quiet, but she felt as if the wind itself carried a response. Valor tilted his massive head, sensing her presence. A small tremor ran through the sand as he shifted his weight. Lily froze but did not run. Instead, she stayed still, keeping her hands visible, showing she meant no harm. Valor felt a strange warmth in response to her calmness. He had never encountered anything like it before. For centuries, he had wandered alone, driven only by hunger and survival. Now something else existed in his mind: trust. Night fell again. The twin suns disappeared, and stars filled the sky. The desert became a cool, silent world. Lily stayed near the pool, her mind full of wonder and fear. She sensed the dragon nearby, felt his presence but saw nothing. Her curiosity overcame her fear, and she whispered softly to the empty canyon, "I know you're there. I'm not afraid." Valor stepped closer, finally revealing more of his massive form. The shadows hid parts of him, but his glowing eyes were clear. He did not speak, yet something passed between them, an understanding, a connection, a silent agreement. He would not harm her. She had earned his trust in a way that no other being had for centuries. By the next morning, the team would notice strange tracks near the canyon, and the readings from the minerals would change. But for now, the dragon and the girl shared a quiet bond, built not on words but on presence, patience, and respect. For Valor, it was the first time in centuries that hunger was not the only thing that guided him. For Lily, it was the first time she realized the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. The desert, once a lonely, empty place, was alive with possibility, and a story was beginning, one that would test courage, curiosity, and the bond between human and alien alike. The dragon, still thirsty but restrained, watched her as she worked. He was learning patience, a lesson foreign to his long, desperate life. And Lily, unaware of the full danger, felt a strange comfort in the presence of the ancient creature. The desert night wrapped around them like a blanket, silent and full of stars. And in that quiet, two very different lives, one human, one dragon, stood together on the edge of a journey neither could yet imagine. The next morning, the desert was bathed in pale sunlight. Lily Carter rose early, her curiosity driving her to explore the canyon again. She could not shake the feeling that something watched her, something enormous. The tracks from the night before led to the pool and then disappeared into the shadows. She wondered what could have made them. Her team was still asleep in their tents near the vehicle. Jake Miller and Ben Taylor snored lightly, and Sarah Lee was curled up with her communication device beside her. Lily stepped carefully over the rocks and sand, carrying her scanner and tools. The desert was quiet, almost too quiet. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every ridge, every small movement. Valor watched her from a distance, crouched low behind a rock formation. Hunger pressed at him stronger than ever. His body ached, his wings trembled, and his tail scraped the sand as he shifted. For centuries, he had survived without the minerals he needed, but now the craving was almost unbearable. The human girl from the night before, the one who had shown no fear, was near. The minerals in her blood could give him life, but approaching her came with risk. He had to be careful. One wrong move, and he could destroy her. His instincts screamed at him to act. But something in his mind, something strange and unfamiliar, told him to wait. He remembered her calmness, her bravery, and the way she had spoken to him without fear. For the first time in centuries, he hesitated, torn between survival and restraint. Lily knelt by the pool again, scanning the minerals. Her device beeped softly, recording traces she had not expected to find. "This is different," she whispered. "These readings, they shouldn't be here." She noticed the marks in the sand and followed them slightly, moving deeper into the canyon. Valor followed slowly, keeping to the shadows. He was learning patience, a lesson hard-earned over centuries of survival. The closer he got, the stronger the scent of her blood became, the minerals calling to him like a song. But he forced himself to control the hunger. reminding himself that the girl had not shown fear. She had earned trust, and trust was something rare, almost forgotten in his long life. Lily felt the presence again. It was subtle, like the brush of wind across her skin, but stronger, older, almost alive. She froze and looked around. "I know you're there," she whispered softly. "I'm not afraid." Valor hesitated. Her words reached him in a way that no other creature had ever done. For centuries he had lived with only hunger and solitude. Now someone spoke to him with understanding. He wanted to respond, but he could not. Instead, he lowered his massive head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. The morning passed slowly. Lily collected samples and recorded notes, unaware of how close the dragon was. Valor stayed hidden, watching, studying, learning about her. He noticed her careful movements, her intelligence, and her patience. She did not rush. She did not panic. She treated the desert, the minerals, and even the strange tracks with respect. By noon, the heat became unbearable. The team retreated to the shade of the vehicle, sipping water and trying to stay cool. Lily stayed behind a little longer, examining the rocks and soil. She was drawn to a small, glittering stone embedded in the canyon wall. Her scanner beeped rapidly, showing unusually high readings of minerals. She touched the stone gently, feeling a faint vibration beneath her fingers. Valor's hunger surged. He stepped closer, driven by the scent and the energy he could sense in her blood. His claws scraped the rock lightly, and Lily froze. She looked up and saw movement in the shadows. Her heart raced, but fear did not take over. Instead, curiosity and calm courage filled her chest. "Hello?" she said softly, her voice steady. "I know you're there. I won't hurt you." Valor paused. Her calmness was like a strange warmth against the fire of his hunger. Most creatures he had encountered would have screamed, fled, or attacked. But she stood still. She spoke to him. She trusted him. And for a moment, hunger and caution balanced inside him. The rest of the team noticed something. Ben Taylor squinted toward the canyon. "Did you see that?" he whispered. "Something moved over there." Jake Miller shook his head. "It's probably just a shadow," he said, though his voice lacked confidence. The desert was full of illusions and tricked the eyes easily, but Lily knew it was more than a shadow. She felt the presence clearly now, like a pulse in the air. Her mind raced with questions. Could it be a new species? Something unknown, something ancient? She had seen many strange creatures in her research, but nothing like this. Valor edged closer, now fully visible. His massive wings were half extended, and his long tail dragged across the sand. His scales shimmered with blue and green hues, reflecting the sun. His glowing eyes studied her intently, filled with hunger, but also with a strange hesitation. Lily took a deep breath. "I don't know what you are," she said, "but I think you need help." Valor tilted his head, considering her words. He had never needed help before. He had survived alone for centuries, hunting, fleeing, and enduring. But now, weakness pressed at him, and her presence offered something he could not ignore. The afternoon passed slowly. Lily stayed near the pool, recording readings and taking notes. She noticed subtle changes in the water and sand. The readings from the minerals fluctuated, as if something had been moving nearby. She glanced at the shadows of the canyon walls and thought she saw the outline of a massive figure. Valor remained hidden but close. His hunger had grown unbearable, and he knew he could not wait much longer. But he also knew he could not attack recklessly. Lily had offered him something rare, trust, and he could not destroy that. His instincts roared at him, but he forced himself to hold back. By evening, the suns had set, leaving the desert under the glow of distant stars. Lily returned to the camp carrying samples and notes. She felt a strange sense of excitement and unease. Something was happening, something she could not explain. The desert felt alive in a way it had not before. Valor followed at a distance, his massive form moving silently through the shadows. His body ached, his hunger a constant pressure, but he could not bring himself to harm her. Instead, he watched, learning. He had lived for centuries as a predator, driven by need. But now, for the first time, he felt something different, something like hope. During the night, a sudden sandstorm swept through the canyon. The wind howled, carrying dust and sand in thick clouds. The humans struggled to secure their equipment and protect their camp. Lily crawled to the edge of the canyon to help, her face streaked with dust. Valor reacted instantly. With a rush of strength, he moved through the storm, his wings cutting through the wind. He used his massive body to shield part of the camp, protecting the humans from falling rocks and debris. Lily saw him clearly for the first time, his enormous body silhouetted against the storm. She did not run. Instead, she called out, "It's okay. Thank you." The dragon paused, lowering his head slightly in acknowledgement. He had saved them, yet again, without taking from her. Hunger and restraint battled inside him. He wanted the minerals, the life-giving energy she carried, but he could not take it recklessly. He needed to understand, to learn how to survive without destroying the fragile human before him. The storm passed by morning, leaving the canyon covered in dust and debris. Lily and her team emerged cautiously, shaken but unharmed. They noticed the strange tracks near the camp, huge, deep marks in the sand and rocks. Jake Miller shook his head. "What kind of creature could do this?" he asked, voice trembling. Lily looked at the tracks, then at the canyon walls. She felt the presence again, faint but undeniable. "I think we've met it," she said softly. "Something alive. Something very old." Valor remained hidden, watching them. He had learned more about humans in these hours than he had in centuries observing other creatures. They were clever, resourceful, and unpredictable. And this small girl, Lily, had changed everything. She had shown courage, patience, and trust. As the day progressed, the dragon felt his hunger grow stronger. He knew he could not last much longer without feeding, but he also knew the human girl could help him survive in a way that no other creature could. He needed her, not as prey, but as a lifeline, and he sensed somehow that she might understand if he could find a way to communicate. By afternoon, Lily noticed subtle changes in the canyon. Small stones shifted, the water level in the pool fluctuated, and the sand bore impressions of movement too large to be human. She frowned, sensing that something was very near, something alive. She looked around, calling softly, "I know you're here. Please, show yourself." Valor stepped forward slowly, revealing more of his massive body. His wings were folded, but his size was impossible to ignore. Lily held her hands out, showing no fear. She spoke softly, gently. "I won't hurt you. I think you're hungry." The dragon hesitated. Hunger pressed at him, fierce and unrelenting. But her calm words, her courage, and her trust gave him pause. He lowered his head, careful not to frighten her. He could sense the minerals in her blood, could feel the life-giving energy she carried. But he would not take it recklessly. Not yet. For the first time in centuries, Valor waited, studying the human before him. And Lily, sensing the struggle within the massive creature, stood still, offering trust, patience, and understanding. The desert, once silent and empty, now held two lives connected by curiosity, courage, and necessity. A bond was forming, fragile yet undeniable, and both human and dragon felt it. The night fell again, the stars shining above the desert, and in the quiet, two very different beings, one small and fragile, one massive and ancient, stood together, aware of each other, aware of what was coming, and ready for the journey that would test courage, trust, and survival. The next day began with a calm quiet that felt almost unnatural. The desert stretched endlessly under the twin suns, but something had changed. The air felt charged, as if the planet itself had noticed the presence of Valor, the ancient dragon, and the small human girl who had captured his attention. Lily Carter woke early again, eager to continue her study of the minerals and strange energy readings in the canyon. Her team moved slowly, still shaken by the events of the storm. Jake Miller muttered to Ben Taylor about the strange tracks near their camp. "I've never seen anything like it," he said, shaking his head. "Those prints, they're huge, almost impossible." Lily paid little attention. Her eyes scanned the canyon as she approached, scanning the sand, the rocks, and the small pool of water. She had a sense that something was near, something alive, but unlike any animal she had studied before. She crouched by the pool, testing the water and minerals with her device. The readings were higher than she expected. Her heart raced with excitement. Valor watched her carefully from behind a ridge. Hunger pressed at him stronger than ever. His centuries-long thirst had never been this sharp. He needed minerals, needed energy, and the small human before him carried what he craved. But he could not simply attack. He had learned from the night before. The girl had shown him something rare: trust. He edged closer, keeping low and careful. Every movement had to be precise. One wrong motion, and he could destroy her. But the minerals in her blood and the subtle energy she carried pulled at him like a force he could not resist. His wings twitched, his tail scraped against the sand, and his claws left shallow marks. Each step brought him nearer to the girl. Lily sensed him again, faintly, like a vibration through the air. She froze, then smiled slightly. "I know you're there," she whispered. "You don't need to hide from me." Valor hesitated, almost as if he understood her words. He lowered his massive head, careful not to make sudden movements. Hunger roared inside him, but he forced restraint. This human girl had something he had not felt in centuries: calm, courage, and an understanding that no other creature had offered him. The hours passed slowly. Lily worked near the pool, taking samples and recording notes. She noticed subtle changes in the water, as if something had moved nearby. She glanced around the canyon, her heart beating faster. The desert felt alive in a new way. It was not only her imagination. Something large and ancient was near. Valor's hunger grew sharper, his body demanding what it had lacked for centuries. His instincts screamed at him to act, to feed, but he remembered the girl's calm voice, her gentle words. He forced himself to wait, studying her movements, learning about her patience and intelligence. For the first time, he did not act on instinct alone. By midday, the suns were high, and the heat became intense. Lily retreated to the shade of a nearby rock, taking a sip of water. She looked at the canyon, feeling the presence again, faint but undeniable. "I think you need something," she whispered, though she spoke only to the air. "I think you're hungry." Valor's glowing eyes fixed on her. He had never needed help before. But now the realization pressed heavily on him. He needed the minerals she carried. He could survive if he took them, but he did not want to harm her. Centuries of hunting had taught him the cost of reckless action. He could not afford to destroy the trust she had shown him. The team noticed changes around the canyon. Ben Taylor squinted at the rocks and sand. "Look at this," he said. "Something moved overnight. Huge stones shifted. It's too big to be a normal animal." Jake Miller frowned, uneasy. "We should leave," he said. "Whatever this is, it's dangerous." Lily shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "It's not trying to hurt us. I can feel it. It's hungry, maybe, but it's not attacking." As afternoon came, Valor made a careful decision. He stepped closer, fully revealing his massive form. His wings were partially extended. His tail coiled behind him, and his scales shimmered under the sunlight. Lily did not run. Instead, she held her hands out, showing she meant no harm. "I won't hurt you," she said softly. "I think you need help. I want to help." Valor lowered his head, moving closer to her. Hunger pressed at him with unbearable force, but her calm, steady presence gave him a strange strength. He could feel the minerals in her blood, and the energy flowed toward him like a warm light. Yet he did not feed recklessly. He waited, learning from her patience. The desert grew hotter, and the team became concerned. Sarah Lee called out, "Lily, come back, it's too hot out here." Lily shook her head. "Just a little longer," she said. She felt that something important was happening. She did not fully understand it yet, but she knew she was part of it. Valor's movements were careful, deliberate. He lowered his massive head closer to her, inhaling the faint scent of her blood and the minerals she carried. Hunger roared inside him, but he held back. For centuries, he had acted without restraint. Now, for the first time, he felt something new: trust. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A small rock slide began on the edge of the canyon, and the humans shouted in alarm. Lily froze. The stones rolled toward her, and Valor reacted instantly. With a rush of power, he used his tail to sweep the rocks aside, protecting her. The humans stared in awe and fear. Jake Miller gasped, "It saved her! It's huge!" Lily did not panic. She looked at the dragon, seeing the immense power he carried and the restraint he showed. "Thank you," she whispered softly. Valor lowered his head slightly, acknowledging her words. Hunger and patience battled inside him. He could take what he needed, but he resisted, sensing that this small human had something more to offer: understanding. Night fell again, and the desert cooled. The team returned to their tents, exhausted but safe. Lily stayed by the pool, feeling the presence of the dragon nearby. He was close yet hidden, watching her, learning from her patience and courage. She sensed the hunger, the struggle, but also the restraint. Valor's body ached with need. His wings trembled, his claws dug into the sand, and his throat burned for the minerals she carried. He had survived centuries without them, but now the temptation was nearly unbearable. Yet he did not act recklessly. He had learned to wait, to study, to understand. Lily felt a subtle change in the desert. The air seemed heavier, charged with energy. She knew the dragon was near, close enough to touch if she reached out. She did not move her hands, but she whispered softly, "I can help you. I think I can." Valor tilted his head, sensing her words. He had never felt understanding from another being like this. Hunger pressed at him, sharp and cruel, but her presence and her calm voice held him back. He stepped closer, carefully, lowering his massive head to her level. The stars shone brightly above, and the desert night was silent except for the soft wind. Lily studied the dragon, seeing not only his size and power, but also the struggle within him. She realized that this ancient creature needed something more than food. He needed trust, patience, and understanding. By dawn, both would be tested. Hunger would grow stronger. Patience would be stretched, and trust would be pushed to the limit. But in this quiet night, human and dragon shared a bond, fragile but undeniable. The desert, once empty and harsh, now held two lives connected by curiosity, courage, and necessity. Valor had learned restraint, and Lily had learned patience. Both were discovering something new, that survival was not only about strength, but also about understanding, trust, and the willingness to act with care. The night passed slowly. The stars moved across the sky, and the twin suns approached the horizon. Lily remained by the pool, recording her notes, sensing the dragon's presence. Valor stayed close, hiding in the shadows but watching every movement. Hunger burned within him, but he had learned that rushing would be disastrous. For the first time in centuries, he considered another way, one that did not destroy the fragile human who had earned his trust. As dawn approached, the desert light slowly returned. Lily looked out over the canyon, feeling a mixture of fear, excitement, and hope. The dragon was near, and she knew that soon something critical would happen. Hunger would push him to the edge, and she would have to act. Valor took a deep breath, feeling the pull of the minerals in her blood, the energy she carried, and the life-giving force that could sustain him. He was desperate, stronger than ever, but he had learned something vital. Restraint, trust, and understanding could guide him in ways hunger alone never could. The desert was quiet, full of potential, and on the edge of a moment that would change both their lives. Hunger and trust, fear and courage, patience and desperation all converged in the silent canyon, and both human and dragon waited for what would come next, aware that the journey had only just begun. The desert stretched under the twin suns, glowing in pale light. Lily Carter rose early, feeling both excitement and tension. She had sensed the dragon Valor nearby all night. The air carried a strange energy, as if the planet itself was aware of what was about to happen. Lily knew today would be different. Her team moved slowly, still uneasy from the past days. Jake Miller adjusted his backpack nervously, glancing at the canyon. "I don't like this," he muttered. "There's something too big for us out here." Lily shook her head. "It's not dangerous if we're careful," she said softly. "It just needs something. I can feel it." Valor had been awake for hours, moving through the canyon carefully. His hunger pressed at him stronger than ever. The centuries-long thirst had left him weak and desperate, but Lily's presence brought a strange calm. She had shown patience, trust, and courage, qualities Valor had not seen for centuries. They gave him strength he had never felt before. He moved closer to her, careful not to startle her. His wings were partially extended, and his tail swept the sand slowly. His glowing eyes followed every movement of the girl. Hunger pressed at him like a flame, sharp and cruel. The minerals in her blood were enough to sustain him, enough to restore his strength fully, but he had to be careful. Lily approached the pool, her scanner in hand. She noticed the water level had changed slightly overnight. She knelt, studying the minerals, her mind racing with possibilities. Then she sensed the dragon very close. It was not fear but awareness, a presence both massive and intelligent. "I know you're here," she whispered softly. "You don't need to hide." Valor paused, tilting his head. He had never felt trust like this before. Hunger roared inside him, but her words and calm presence held him back. For centuries he had acted on instinct, but now he waited. He needed her, not as prey, but as a guide, as someone who could help him survive without harm. The team watched from a distance, unsure of what they were seeing. Ben Taylor whispered, "Do you think she's talking to it?" Jake Miller shook his head. "I don't know, this is impossible." Lily remained calm, speaking softly to the dragon. "I know you're thirsty. I think I can help you." Valor's massive body shifted slightly. Hunger pressed at him so strongly it was painful, but he understood. He lowered his head closer to her, careful, patient. His claws dug into the sand as he balanced his immense weight. His tail coiled, and his wings twitched nervously. Every movement was deliberate. Lily reached out, holding a small device she had created to regulate the flow of minerals. She had thought of it during the storm, realizing that if the dragon took the minerals recklessly, he could harm her. She placed the device gently near her arm, letting the dragon sense the energy it carried. Valor sniffed the device, then sniffed her. He could feel the minerals flowing within her blood, the life-giving energy that would sustain him. Hunger surged, sharp and powerful, but he did not strike. He stepped closer, letting the girl's patience guide him. The team gasped from a distance. They saw the enormous dragon leaning over the small human, his glowing eyes intense, his scales shimmering under the sun. Fear and awe mixed in their hearts. Lily spoke softly. "It's okay. I'll help you. Just slowly." Valor exhaled, a low rumble vibrating through the canyon. He extended his massive neck carefully toward her arm, testing the connection with the device. The minerals flowed slowly, controlled. He felt them enter his body, filling him with strength he had not felt in centuries. His wings twitched with energy, his tail uncoiled, and his massive body trembled with relief. Lily watched carefully, making small adjustments. She could feel the dragon's strength returning. His eyes softened slightly, glowing with life instead of desperation. For the first time in centuries, Valor did not feel alone. For the first time, he felt that someone cared, that his life could continue without destruction. Hours passed as the minerals flowed slowly. Valor's body grew stronger, his scales shimmering brighter than ever. Hunger faded into a dull memory, replaced by a new sensation. Gratitude, respect, and even a strange warmth toward the small human girl who had helped him. The team finally approached cautiously. Sarah Lee whispered, "It's okay, right? She's safe?" Lily nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "He's not dangerous, not anymore, he just needed help." Valor lifted his massive head, looking at the humans. He did not roar or threaten. Instead, he exhaled slowly, a sound like wind through mountains, and shifted slightly to show he meant no harm. The humans watched, amazed. For centuries, they had believed dragons were dangerous monsters. This one was different. He had been desperate, yes, but he had also learned trust. By evening, Valor was fully restored. His wings stretched, catching the light of the setting suns, and his massive body gleamed with renewed energy. He had grown stronger than ever, but he had done so without harming the humans. The canyon, once dangerous and empty, now held life, hope, and a bond between species. Lily approached him carefully. She held her hands out, showing trust, not fear. "You're safe now," she whispered. "You don't need to be afraid." Valor lowered his head, letting her touch his scales gently. The energy between them was almost electric, a connection that went beyond words. He could feel her courage, her patience, and her kindness. For centuries he had wandered alone, desperate and thirsty. Now he had found something new: understanding, respect, and even friendship. The humans watched quietly, not wanting to disturb the moment. Jake Miller whispered, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." Ben Taylor nodded. "Neither have I. It's amazing." As night fell, the desert cooled. Valor curled his massive body near the canyon, his head resting on the rocks, but he kept his eyes on Lily. She sat nearby, recording notes and observing him. For the first time, they both felt calm. Hunger and fear had been replaced by trust and understanding. Days passed. Valor stayed near the canyon, learning from Lily and her team. He observed humans closely, fascinated by their intelligence, courage, and resilience. He realized that humans were small and fragile in body, but their minds and hearts made them strong. He had spent centuries relying on instinct and strength, but now he saw that there was more to life than survival alone. Lily learned from Valor as well. She had studied dragons in theory, but living with one, understanding his needs and his life, gave her a perspective she could never have imagined. She realized that humans were not the only intelligent beings in the universe, but their ability to trust, empathize, and act with patience and care was unique. One afternoon, Valor stretched his massive wings fully. The desert wind carried his power through the canyon. He looked at Lily and her team, then lifted off slowly. The ground trembled as he took flight, soaring into the sky. Lily watched in awe, her heart pounding. She realized that this dragon, once desperate and alone, now had hope and strength. He circled above them, letting out a low, melodic roar. It was not a sound of hunger or fear. It was a sound of gratitude. Then, with powerful strokes of his wings, he flew toward the distant mountains, leaving the canyon behind but carrying the memory of the humans who had saved him. Lily smiled, feeling both pride and wonder. "Goodbye, Valor," she whispered. "Stay safe." The team gathered, amazed and silent. Jake Miller finally broke the quiet. "I can't believe we just helped a dragon survive." Ben Taylor shook his head. "It's impossible." "But it happened." Lily nodded. "It did. And we learned something important. Humans can make a difference, even to creatures as old and powerful as Valor. Our patience, trust, and courage, they matter." That night, the desert was quiet again. Stars shone brightly, and the twin suns rested below the horizon. The canyon felt alive, not with danger, but with possibility. Lily looked at the empty sky, imagining Valor soaring through it. She felt a strange connection, a reminder that life, even across species, could be linked by understanding and compassion. Valor flew higher, feeling the minerals coursing through his body, the strength of his wings, and the calm he had never known. He thought of the small human who had helped him, who had shown patience, courage, and trust. For centuries he had wandered alone, but now he knew that connection and understanding could exist, even between the most different of beings. The desert, once empty and harsh, had witnessed something extraordinary. A dragon who had wandered for centuries, desperate and thirsty, had learned trust and restraint. A human girl, small and fragile, had shown courage, intelligence, and kindness that changed the course of a life that had spanned centuries. In the days that followed, Lily returned to her work, but she often glanced at the horizon, wondering where Valor had gone. She knew he would return someday, not as a threat, but as a being who had learned the value of trust and patience. And she knew, deep in her heart, that humans had something unique in the universe, the ability to connect, to understand, and to make a difference. The story of the desperate alien dragon and the human girl became more than survival. It became a story of courage, understanding, and the strength of humanity. For centuries, Valor had wandered alone. For centuries, he had been thirsty and desperate. But now, thanks to one small human girl, he had hope, strength, and a future. And the desert, once empty, had become a place where life, trust, and understanding could exist, proving that even the smallest, most fragile beings could change the fate of creatures far older and stronger than themselves. The twin suns rose the next day, shining over the canyon, over the desert, over the tiny human outpost. And somewhere high above, Valor soared, free, strong, and grateful. The story ended not with fear, but with hope, a testament to human courage, patience, and the ability to change even the most desperate and ancient lives through understanding and trust.